The distant hum of the alien fleet reverberated through New Hope City, a stark reminder of the impending doom. Towering warships, their black hulls glinting with deadly intent, cut across the sky in eerie formation, casting long shadows over the ruins of Earth's capital. The last remnants of humanity huddled within their fortified bunker, hidden beneath the broken remnants of a once thriving metropolis. Outside, the invasion had already begun. Inside the command center, Captain Nathan Hale stood before a holographic map of the battlefield, his jaw clenched, eyes scanning the enemy's movements. His team was all that stood between humanity and complete annihilation. Around him, the quiet murmurs of his soldiers were the only sound, broken occasionally by the beep of a console or the clang of boots against steel. "We don't have long," Hale muttered, eyes narrowing as he examined the alien fleet. "The alien command ship is descending. We have one shot to hit it before it deploys its ground forces. If we don't, we're all dead." Sergeant Ava Walker finished for him, her voice cold but resolute. She leaned against the wall, her arms crossed, the weight of the situation pressing down on her broad shoulders. Her piercing blue eyes glinted with a mix of determination and exhaustion. She'd been through too many fights, but this one felt different, darker, like the inevitable conclusion of a war that had dragged on for far too long. "Any chance we can talk them into leaving?" Lieutenant Cal Briggs quipped, his hands dancing across the control panel in front of him. His face was lit by the glow of the screens, but his usual sarcasm barely masked the tension in his voice. "Or maybe send them a gift basket?" "Funny," Hale said, but there was no humor in his eyes. "Get the secondary codes, Briggs. We need those to get past the shields." Cal didn't respond immediately, his fingers moving in a blur of motion. Finally, he let out a relieved sigh. "Got it. But even with the codes, this won't be easy. The alien technology is designed to adapt to human tactics. You think I don't know that?" Hale snapped, his voice rising with the weight of command. "But we don't have time to rethink this. We're attacking, or we're dying here." The room fell silent as his words hung in the air. For a moment, Hale allowed himself a glance at his soldiers, Ava, who had lost too many loved ones to this war, and Cal, who was too young to have seen this much death. They all knew the stakes. Ava pushed off the wall and grabbed her rifle. "We're ready," she said firmly. Her voice held the conviction of someone who had nothing left to lose but was willing to fight until her last breath. Hale nodded, his gaze hardening. "We fight because it's the only thing we know how to do. We fight because we're human." He turned toward the door, and the soldiers followed. They would go out there, into the heart of the alien storm, and take the fight directly to their enemies. It was a suicide mission, but it was their mission. If humanity was going to go down, they would go down swinging. As they exited the command center, the rumble of explosions echoed from above, rattling the walls of the bunker. The countdown had begun. The air was thick with the acrid smell of burning debris as Captain Nathan Hale led his squad through the dark corridors of the bunker. They moved quickly, the metallic echoes of their boots reverberating off the cold steel walls. The faint hum of energy shields outside buzzed like an oppressive swarm of insects, an ever-present reminder of the threat hanging over them. The squad's mission was clear: destroy the alien command ship before it could deploy its forces. They had to get through the underground tunnel systems, make it to the surface, and breach the alien defenses. If they failed, the rest of humanity's last bastion would fall. "How much time do we have?" Sergeant Ava Walker's voice broke the silence, low and deliberate. Hale glanced at his wrist chronometer. 20 minutes until the alien ship reaches the launch zone. We're going to have to move faster than planned." Ava nodded, her expression unreadable. She'd been through countless battles, each one leaving scars. But this felt different. The weight of the mission pressed down on her like a tangible force. Their last hope for survival rested on the success of this mission, and she didn't have any illusions about what failure would mean. "We can't afford to waste time," Lieutenant Cal Briggs added from the rear of the group. His fingers tapped nervously against the side of his rifle. "Every minute counts. Just stay sharp, Briggs. Hale ordered, though his voice held an edge of tension. He wasn't just leading the squad, he was carrying the burden of every human life that depended on them. The squad reached the final checkpoint before the surface entrance. The door before them was solid, reinforced with alien technology that resisted most of their weapons. But Hale had a plan for this too. He motioned for Ava and Cal to take cover while he knelt before the door's control panel. He worked quickly, his fingers flying over the interface as he bypassed the locks. Sweat dripped down his brow as the countdown ticked in the back of his mind. The steady beeping of his wrist chronometer seemed deafening in the quiet room. "Come on," he muttered to himself, heart pounding in his chest. Behind him, Ava's hand rested on the grip of her rifle. Her eyes flicked back and forth, scanning for any sign of movement, any hint that the enemy might be closing in. The silence stretched between them, every second a threat. She knew that Hale was working against time, but she couldn't shake the gnawing feeling that something was off. The alien forces were too quiet. Suddenly, the door's mechanisms clicked, releasing with a resounding hiss. Hale pushed it open, and the squad moved swiftly into the open air. They stepped into the shadow of the alien warship, its massive silhouette towering over them, an intimidating, impenetrable fortress. The air above shimmered with the heat from its engines, and the faint crackle of alien energy shields buzzed ominously. Ava's breath caught in her throat as she surveyed the enormity of the ship. It was unlike anything they had ever faced, its sleek design a testament to an intelligence far beyond human comprehension. But there was one thing it lacked: humanity. "We'll hit them where it hurts," Hale said, steely resolve in his voice. "We may be outnumbered, but we've got something they don't, our will to survive." Ava nodded, her grip on her weapon tightening. They may be outgunned and outmatched, but they weren't going to let the aliens have the Earth without a fight. "Let's do this," she said quietly. They moved forward, each step bringing them closer to their goal, and the shadow of the alien ship looming large behind them. The quiet tension before the storm hung thick in the air as they prepared for the most dangerous mission of their lives. The air was thick with tension, an electric charge that hummed through the squad's veins as they stood beneath the looming alien warship. Captain Hale scanned the horizon, his sharp eyes taking in the battlefield. The alien ship, massive and sleek, loomed above them like a beast preparing to strike. But what really struck him was its utter silence. No sounds of approaching troops. No signs of immediate attack. It was almost too quiet. "Where are they?" Ava's voice cracked the silence, and Hale met her gaze. Her eyes, always so steady in the face of danger, now flickered with the same unease he was feeling. "Don't know," Hale muttered. "But I don't like it." "Stay alert." The squad moved forward, the ground beneath their boots soft and uneven, scattered with the debris of earlier skirmishes. The ruins of their city, once a testament to human achievement, were now just ashes and dust. But Hale could feel the fire of defiance burning in his chest, stronger than ever. Humanity was not done yet. Suddenly, the ground shook beneath their feet, a deep rumble that vibrated through the soles of their boots. Ava's weapon swung up instinctively, and the squad tensed, waiting for the attack. The sky above them split with a thunderous crack, and the alien ship's hangar doors opened with a sound like the tearing of metal. Out poured hundreds of sleek, black combat drones, their sharp angles gleaming in the dim light, hovering like vultures around a carcass. The low hum of their engines was a promise of death. "Form up!" Hale shouted, his voice cutting through the roar. "We're not going down without a fight!" The squad quickly took positions, forming a defensive perimeter around the entrance to the alien vessel. Ava crouched low, her rifle aimed at the incoming drones, her eyes scanning the sky for any sign of their next move. Cal, on the other hand, was fidgeting with his grenade launcher, clearly itching for the fight. "Here they come!" Cal yelled as he fired a round, sending a drone spiraling to the ground in a fiery explosion. The first few shots were easy enough, clear targets, no real strategy. But soon, the drones adapted, their movements faster, more unpredictable. They swarmed, circling around the humans like predatory animals. Hale's pulse quickened as the fight intensified. He had expected this, but even so, the reality was always harsher than the plan. "Cal, Ava, cover me!" Hale shouted. With a flash of movement, he sprinted toward the edge of the battlefield, where a damaged alien turret lay. If they could disable that, they might have a fighting chance. Ava's rifle cracked, sending a drone hurtling to the ground in a burst of sparks. Cal launched another round, and another explosion rocked the ground. Hale didn't stop running. The noise of the battle, the whizzing of alien blasters, the roaring engines, the crackle of static, was deafening, but Hale focused only on his target. As he neared the turret, something caught his eye. A figure, humanoid but far too tall and thin, emerged from the shadows of the alien ship. It was an alien commander, easily twice the size of a human soldier. It moved with an eerie grace, like a predator surveying its prey. Hale's heart skipped a beat. He'd read the reports, but nothing had prepared him for this. The first of the enemy's leaders was here. "Everyone, fall back!" Hale's voice rang out, but it was too late. The commander's glowing eyes locked onto him, and it raised a massive weapon that hummed with deadly energy. The squad's retreat was cut off as a wall of drones surrounded them. They were trapped. Ava's voice rang out through the chaos. "Hale, we're not running! We fight!" The tension in the air was palpable, the standoff unbearable. Hale's gaze flicked between his squad and the alien commander. For a moment, everything froze. Then, with a roar, the first shot was fired, and the battle truly began. The crackle of static and the scream of weapons filled the air. Hale ducked behind a shattered wall, his chest heaving as the roar of combat continued to swirl around him. The squad had regrouped, but the situation was worse than ever. The towering alien commander loomed just beyond the battlefield, its eerie, glowing eyes scanning for weakness. The drones, like a swarm of vicious insects, moved with precision, cutting off any potential escape. Ava's voice came through his comms, steady, unshaken despite the chaos. "Hale, we're surrounded. What's the plan?" His mind raced, but clarity surged through him. There was no time for hesitation. "We need to take out that commander. If we don't, they'll just keep coming." His grip tightened on his rifle as he surveyed the scene. Cal was laying down suppressing fire from the left, keeping the drones at bay, while Lucia and Miko were moving through the wreckage, looking for weak spots in the enemy formation. The squad was fighting like a well-oiled machine, but even they could feel the immense pressure of their dwindling chances. The alien commander turned, its towering form moving with unnatural grace. Its weapon thrummed with an ominous hum. Hale's breath caught in his throat. He had seen enemy commanders before, intelligent, deadly, but none like this. The sheer size of the creature, its uncanny calm in the midst of chaos, made it feel more like an inevitable force of nature than a soldier. "Hale!" Ava's voice again, breaking through his thoughts. "We can't hold much longer." He turned, locking eyes with her. Her expression was grim, but determined. Ava had never been one to back down, not once in all the missions they'd shared, and Hale knew she wasn't about to start now. "We don't back down," he said, the words more of a mantra than a command. A roar echoed in the distance. A few of the drones broke from their formation and descended on them, moving with terrifying speed. Hale was already sprinting toward the enemy line, his squad falling in step behind him. Each movement was a calculated risk, each decision made in the span of seconds. But he wasn't just charging into the fight, he was strategizing. They had one shot at this, and it had to count. He flung himself behind a metal pillar, his breath ragged. Ava's rifle blazed beside him, taking down drone after drone. The sound of metal colliding, of weapons discharging, of the squad pushing forward, everything felt as if it was building to a crescendo. Hale's mind was sharp, calculating, and as the alien commander's hulking form closed in on them, a plan began to form. "Cal, Ava, disrupt their shield generators. Miko, Lucia, cover our 6. I'm going for the commander." Without waiting for a response, Hale surged forward, darting from cover to cover, his heart pounding. The commander's weapon crackled with energy as it swung in his direction, and Hale barely managed to roll to the side, avoiding the blast by inches. He could feel the heat of the energy wave on his skin, the air warping as it passed. He didn't have much time. This was it. In one smooth motion, Hale drew a grenade from his belt, activating the timed fuse. The blast would be enough to breach the commander's armor, if he could get close enough. His squad was keeping the drones at bay, but the commander's attention was fixed on him, its glowing eyes narrowing. "Hale, now!" Ava's voice shouted over the comms. He didn't hesitate. With a roar, Hale sprinted, the grenade clutched tightly in his hand. The distance closed, and in that heartbeat he threw it. The explosion rang out, a blinding burst of light and sound. When it cleared, the alien commander staggered back, its armor cracked, vulnerable. "That's our opening!" Hale shouted. "Now's the time!" The squad surged forward, the battle entering its final, desperate phase. The tide had shifted. The commander was reeling, and for the first time, Hale felt a spark of hope. But even as the dust settled, the ground beneath their feet trembled once more. Another threat was rising. The war was far from over.